All right, welcome back to Facts at Five. I'm Michael Clark here at LTV Studios in Wayne Scott, New York. And as we do every Friday, we are talking with East Hampton Town Supervisor Peter Van Scoyoc. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you so much, Michael. Good to see you again.
Yeah, I love your background, by the way. Your high hopes there. Very good.
Well, spring is coming. That's the town hall. Spring is coming. And I was telling somebody the other day that I have a cherry tree on my property that fully bloomed at the end of November into December, and now it's done.
Okay. A little confused.
That's how crazy, it's gotten with the climate. That the tree's so confused.
Well, somewhere down the road, Peter, we're going to be able to talk about things like that, like the fishing industry. There are small town businesses who won the largest clam contest again, all those fun things. But unfortunately, as you know, our main focus has been and needs to be on COVID-19. And as we spoke about recently, we're still headed in the wrong direction. And although the vaccine, well, I guess it's in the state now, right? As the leader of the town, Peter, what's keeping you up at night besides the obvious? I mean, what about the COVID-19 is keeping you up at night?
Well, I mean, a lot of things. I get concerned about people who have withstood the economic impacts to date, and now are facing, uncertain times. Our community's really been terrific pulling together and meeting the needs of those folks. But, this is spreading, as is the disease. I mean, I worry about having to be in total shutdown, lockdown again.
Right.
And we're definitely headed that direction. Restaurant indoor dining's now closed in New York City, and I think we're potentially only days away from that happening out here. It's been a pretty difficult time, and for restaurant and taverns anyway, and all the people that rely on that for employment. So the latest numbers I have from the county-wide testing is that 8.2% of all tests given now are coming back positive.
Wow.
And that's been a pretty steep and steady incline since Halloween. We had done very well up to that point. I think we had in the first 32 weeks of the epidemic 276 cases. We doubled that in the following 7 weeks, and our cases now are up to over 140 within the town total from start of pandemic till today. That's just the reported cases. There may be many others who have had it asymptomatically.
Right.
So, those are the kind of things I'm concerned about. The town has never really opened back up to direct contact with the public at town hall. We've been trying to do things remotely. We have a drop box for permits and all that sort of thing, but we have brought our staff back into the office settings. But, we're probably going to go back to, 50% and doing shifts and pods and remote working at some point. We've been through that already. That was difficult. I don't want to go back to it, but, in the sake of keeping people safe, we may have to make that call soon. We'll see how that goes. We've continued to have our town board meetings remote, and we've had really very good, I think, participation. In some cases, I think we've actually had more participation from the public, even during daytime meetings, because of the convenience of being able to log in. And, we owe a great deal of thanks to LTV and you for continuing to make that possible. But I think we had 17 callers on one public hearing today.
Yeah.
Discussing stop signs in various streets, and addressing the concerns of, those neighborhoods with people using it as cut through and speeding and whatnot. So, there was a great deal of participation. And, we've all had to reinvent everything, pretty much, how we go about our daily lives. But I just have to reiterate that, we've seen these big spikes because of Halloween, Thanksgiving. Now we're going into the Christmas season. Most of the spread has really been in small gatherings, just what they're calling now living room gatherings, where people outside of households are meeting inside someone's home, even though they're distance. That seems to be the primary source of spread. So, the vaccine has been released and it's being given to frontline healthcare workers now. I believe there was the CDC was reviewing the Moderna vaccine today, and they were trying to make a decision about emergency approval of that. I think we'll continue to see various vaccine manufacturers go through the approval process, and those will become available and widely distributed over time. But because there is a limit to the number of vaccines available and the infrastructure so far to distribute and administer those vaccines, that this is very likely to take until midsummer or possibly even later before we get enough people taking the vaccine. Another encouraging thing is that the percentage of people who are willing to take the vaccine was hovering around 50% or so not that long ago, and it's now over 70% of people asked are saying that they will take the vaccine when it becomes available. So I think that's an important number to look at, because unless you really get pretty widespread inoculation, that the vaccine won't be really that effective.
Right.
People take it in order for it to work within the general population and stop the spread.
Well, it's been a long road. We still have a ways to go. Like, I think I heard a quote today that there's light at the end of the tunnel, but we're still in the tunnel. So, we just got to focus and, keep going. But changing gears here for a second, Peter, Newsday recently had an article about the age-old conflict that you've been dealing with of cell phone towers on the East End. You and I have talked about it a couple of times as well. Some people want them and some people don't, period. That's the way it is. And you can call it what you want, but to me, it's a clear case of NIMBYism, I think. But even though the towers are situated on town land, do you think that people fully understand that it's no longer just about the phone call, that it's about emergency services and fire and burglar alarms and transmitting medical information for the sick and the elderly, and it's much bigger now than when when the cell phone was just starting. I mean, now we can go on, dial up our doctor, and I just wonder if the people really understand that that's the way that it happens.
Well, I think there has really been a sea change in the perception of cell towers in the public, particularly in our community. 20 years ago, nobody wanted to see them, and who cared if you didn't have coverage everywhere in town.
Right.
But I think our population has changed somewhat. Everyone's reliance upon their devices, their phones and laptops and iPads, has really gotten to the point where, we're a immediate gratification type of, culture. And, I need to know now, I need to connect now, I need to be able to make that call now. It's a now.
Right.
And, there's this whole thing about people even having anxiety when they don't have a signal. I think back to, and I'm of a certain age where, the majority of my life was spent prior to cell phones really being widespread in use. And,
Sure.
you needed to get in touch with somebody. You tried calling on, a payphone, find one, and that didn't mean they were going to be home when you called.
That's right.
So now you can pretty much connect with anyone anywhere in the world, at a moment's notice. And I think, that's really changed the perception. And pushing back against that are the folks that acknowledge that, this is necessary infrastructure and I want coverage, but I just don't want, that structure in my backyard. I don't want that renewable energy cable under the road on my street. I kind of understand it, but at the same time, there hasn't been widespread support when an application for a tower came up in front of a planning board. The community, wants the the communications, but they don't get involved with, make sure it happens. But, the town has recognized the seriousness of the state of affairs now. And, I commissioned a committee, put together a committee to review wireless communications. We hired a consulting firm to help us with review of applications, to help us understand coverage gaps. We engaged outside counsel to help us rewrite our wireless code, which dates back to like 2003. Think about how much technology and regulations have changed since 2003. So that, sorely needs to be updated.
Yeah.
So that's all in process. We actually did a resolution today, an emergency resolution to allow for a temporary cell tower to be placed on town property at the corner of Stephen Hand's Path and Route 27 near Waynescott. And that'll help with that corridor and coverage. That's with Verizon. They have an application for a permanent tower on that same site, which is going through site plan review right now. I expect that'll probably be approved. There was recently a new tower, I think it's 185 feet tall, erected behind the Northwest Fire District substation on property that was the old brush dump.
Yep.
Town property. So that's now been erected. They had some issues with the foundation there. We're really looking to try and figure out the problem in Springs, because, that there's our most densely populated hamlet, and coverage there is really overloaded and non-existent actually in some spots. And, the other thing that's really impacted our communications here is the fact that, in the summertime, we would notice that you'd be dropping some calls, and maybe the coverage wouldn't be as good. But now with so many people here because of the pandemic, riding out the pandemic here, that's really overloaded. The remote schooling takes up bandwidth. Working from home takes up bandwidth. Everything is connected. That's the only way we can really communicate with each other. Can't do it in person anymore. So all of that has come together to cause these kind of problems that we're having.
Well, it's good. It's good to know that that you guys have reached out to some outside concerns to bring in a different point of view and a different opinion. They actually mentioned that in the Newsday article as well, and that's always good to get so that you're not the bad guy or the good guy. You're the guy that's pulling in the information, and from there you make a decision based on that, and that makes sense.
Right. So one of the goals we have is to really fill in the coverage gaps, to make new towers locations available to all the providers, the major providers, so that there aren't gaps, and to do it in a comprehensive and cohesive way. And really, rather than the private companies come with applications on private property, and in some cases on town property, and do that piecemeal, we really want to do this, take control of it, and have that that lease revenue come to the town.
Sure.
So that was something that was proposed many years ago. The town didn't follow up on that. I think that's an important approach that we need to bring back to life. All that being said, we have certain community standards here in East Hampton. We don't want to mar the beautiful vistas that we have. We do need to be careful about improvements, and I've heard the spectrum of comments from the public. And one comment that I got recently was when I explained to the person the fact that we understand there are certain areas that have coverage gaps, and we're working to fix those, and there were new towers under construction and applications for them. He said to me, "Well, that's great. And by the way, can you get Wi-Fi on the beach?" And where do you draw the line? I mean,
yeah, just so I can work comfortably on the beach. That's all that matters, Peter.
I guess.
Well,
so, you get the whole spectrum.
Yeah, you sure do. Well, we've run out of time as usual, but the next week we won't be here because of the Christmas holiday. And So, to you and your family and your staff and everybody over there, have a happy and safe holiday. And, we'll see you when we get back.
Michael, if I could, we've been through quite a year this year, and you know, I just have to say that I'm so thankful to live and work in this community, and it's been a real honor and a privilege to serve East Hampton in good times and in bad. And I just want to take a moment to thank all those who really stepped up within the community. First and foremost, our frontline healthcare workers, our first responders, the essential workers, the grocery clerks, the truck drivers, all those who made sure that we had the essentials that we needed and will need going forward. All the volunteers at the food pantries, the food banks, all those who donated generously of their time and of their wealth. And, I'm grateful to have had so many dedicated workers and managing staff in East Hampton town government. They've really been terrific, and my fellow board members and my personal staff. And of course, my great wife, Marilyn, who's really been my rock. And all those in the community have really stepped up, and they've shown their support and come together. So thank you all. I wish you the very best holiday season that we can have, even if it's going to be remote in many cases. And we'll look forward to a better year next year.
What he said is how I feel. Absolutely, Peter. Thank you so much. And have a great weekend. Take care.
Thank you much. And I'll be sure to be tuning into LTV and watching all the goings on around town. And thank you, all the staff there, you and all the staff who provide such a great service to our town.
Thanks, Peter. Have a good night.
Stay safe and be well, everyone.